experience it for themselves.
Love it, love it. What's up, my people, my people? Man, we bring you a special guest today. We got our senior, Mr. Robert Utley. I call him Robert the Prophet. Go ahead, introduce yourself to the people, man.
What's good, world? Yes, my name is Robert Utley, host of the Robert Utley Show.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I am delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah. So what you got good for us today?
Oh man, all types of stuff. I'm blessed to have you in my presence.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Now, what this great man is doing is unraveling African history prior to slavery. You know, a lot of us have the image or the notion that our history starts there, or that's the most significant part of our history. But it's not, and he's doing a great job with that. So the link to his podcast will be in the description. It's called The Robert Utley Show. You can find it on Anchor. And I actually am a guest on one of the newer episodes that is releasing, or by this time you see it has released. And you can just really dive into it. It's a powerful, powerful podcast. One of the only ones that I actually follow. Now, with that, I want to ask you, Robert the Prophet, Mr. Utley, what is the importance of knowing your history? Why is that your motive? Why is that such a significant piece of what you're doing? Why are you going through the lengths and the means to uncover African history? What is so important about history?
Okay, great question. I think what started off as a journey that I am on now, what history means to me is how you fit into the grand picture. The humankind is an awesome experience. We're all, blessed to have it.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that most recently, the last few centuries, it doesn't go back that far.
Yeah.
Where everyone could just be themselves. Everyone can be proud of where they come from and knew it and had the ability to share it. And you really didn't have to discuss it because everyone around you knew it too and respected it as well.
Yeah.
So it's a new thing where everybody is scrambling to put the pieces together. Because somebody took the puzzle that was put together so perfectly and broken them all up, put them back in the box, shucking them up, and now threw them out on the table. So everybody's now trying to figure out what is their piece and the big picture.
Yeah.
And not only did they shake up the box, but they threw away the box. So you don't have an image to go off of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and most times when you do puzzles, you start at the edges and hopefully, work towards the center.
Yeah.
Before it all comes crystal clear. So history to me was that I never saw myself. And I tell students, peers, that if you are learning anything and you don't see yourself in it, then that information, for the most part, is more hurtful than it is helpful to you. So when I took my first trip out of the country, out of the United States, I was welcomed a way that I was never welcomed before. And I was always in the mindset minority or minor, or if I did have any history, it was tied to slavery, and that's an awful history to start off with.
1/3 of a man, they say.
Oh my goodness. So so the first thing I had to do, and I think everybody has to go through this process, first thing I had to overcome was overcome the shame.
Yeah.
But then I figured out that really there's nothing to really be shamed about. Because now I'm putting it into like a football game.
Mm-hmm.
What we went through, that's 500 years, that 500 years of interruption, that was the halftime show. And it was a sucky halftime show.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who invited these artists to perform this halftime show,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when I went back past it and saw the first and second quarter, man, we was rocking. So the first and second quarter of our existence was an awesome first half. So, and then when I dived into history that way and saw myself and saw where I came from, and I know a lot of people want to say that there is America and then there is Africa, and everybody's choosing their origin story. I'm trying to bridge that gap currently as well, right now, by saying that, you know, our ancestors traveled the world freely. So of course we got, if you want to say Africa started in America, yeah, we had presence in America before 1492.
Yeah.
If you want to say that Asiatic, you know, that, and I think it's in Revelation that says that the landmass came up and it was Asia. So I think from the Christianity's particular, so a lot of people may say that, you know, Asiatic are the first, you know, black people. So if you want to have your origin story in Asia, I can see where you get that from. You are correct in a sense, because we had presence there too. You could even say that, you know, we started Europe as well.
Yeah.
Because that was at one time where our presence in Europe was heavy as well. So if you could start your origin story there too. But typically the history that we get, it starts 1619. Portuguese brought, you know, the first, not slaves, but first indentured servants to this country under false pretense. But so yeah, I mean, that's kind of like how I got started. Now, the steps that I took, I like to share that real quick because I want to definitely give this ancestor credit. One of the best writers of history that got me started was Dr. Ivan van Cernema.
Yeah.
And what he accomplished, you know, sometimes our folks like, you know, it's got to be something grand to lure us in. History just can't be history alone, but something miraculous got to stand out. And so I was, you know, a victim of that as well for the most part. But he went before Congress in 1987, and before Congress, he said that Columbus did not discover America. And every book since then, government books, cannot tie the word discovery to Christopher Columbus' name. That is what he accomplished. So for him to do that, that stood out to me.
Yeah.
And then he's a colorful person.
Yeah.
His works are colorful. It's easy reads. And my first book, first book that I read cover to cover history was his book, Early America Revisited. You know, there it was so much that you know, and I've had an interest. The interest was supported with a couple of wow factors, and then reading the works, it then just tied everything together, and then it just became my self-esteem. I felt it naturally increasing, and then I said, hey, if this piece of knowledge, if this book made me feel this great about myself, others got to feel like this too. So that's where the mission came into make it a part of my mission to not only learn this for myself for self reasons, but also to share this with others. So I do host, I don't even like to sometimes say the word lectures, but I do host like educational sessions here in the local area.
Yeah.
As well as the reasons that I started the podcast too was to also provide it as a educational, and I also call it a healing process, because healing to me not only includes healing of the physical body, but healing of the emotions and healing of the spiritual.
Spirit, man.
Yeah, so
your whole being, mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly.
So what I'm getting is you have to revisit your history in order to really dive into learning of self.
Keep going back until you see yourself. And once you see yourself, learn how to, because first of all, to get over the shame, to get over the lie, like that's a process too.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell people, go back, find yourself. But then sometimes you can't even stop there. Because sometimes people feel like, oh, this is where it started and I feel good. And they want to stop there. Sometimes it may require you to, see, some people want to keep going.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's how much lies that has been tossed on them. So some people got to keep digging for a long period of time. But then, like, sometimes a religion can have you stop at a certain point in time, because then you see the origins of that religion.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to stop there because this is my religion. This is their origin story about God.
Right.
And but I tell people, like, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to definitely feel good in a spiritual sense too. But at the same time, make sure the history has no other. See, if you feel the certain way about how the lie made you feel, once you got over shame and faced the lie that was told to you face to face, and sometimes that lie is very hurtful because it could be a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I would like to say that's the difference between being misled and being lied to.
Mm-hmm.
So a person could probably only tell you what they know,
Mm-hmm.
but they did it out of their heart, and they genuinely want you to understand what they are coming from. Like, that still can be being misled, but at the same time, it's not a negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But being lied to, that's where somebody had intentions of you only to understand, or only for you to act a certain way or behave a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's what sometimes religion comes into play. Because again, it's all about controlling a group of people's behaviors, mannerisms. But then again, the challenge is, just so you're not caught off guard again. Find the roots of that religion.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of, you gotta get over that fear, because we're not made to fear, so but we should be in a position where we would like to at least try to understand.
Yeah.
So dive into the roots. And I think, and I just want to say this, one of my favorite phrases: the further back we go, the blacker it gets.
Mm-hmm.
So for my people, if where you at right now stops and what you see as the origins, if it's lighter than you, you did not go back further enough. So I challenge you to go back a little bit further, because again, trust me, I haven't been proven wrong yet, but the further you go back, the blacker it gets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's dope, man. That's dope. So, with history, knowing your history, you get more of a sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can take that sense of self, and like you said, you had a higher self-esteem. It gives you this confidence of knowing your background, knowing what you come from, knowing that this is in you. This ancestral spirit is in you. Wherever your background is, wherever it leads to, if it's not, because we got viewers that aren't of African descent,
Mm-hmm.
well, that aren't Black.
Gotcha.
So if it fits for you, things will start clicking, things will start making sense, because you elaborated one time we was discussing these type of topics. You told me that, knowledge is for you to have a lot of dots, but wisdom is when you can connect those dots. It's when those dots start connecting.
Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure I'm clear on this here, because you made me think about it in the difference. Because again, I want to definitely make sure I address people that are non-African,
Mm-hmm.
European, and again, it's because like that used to not be the topic of the day.
Right.
That did not used to be an issue,
Yeah.
right? So now, most paintings before the 15th century, most artwork, you know, you can even, you know, you can still go to like 1000 BC,
Mm-hmm.
around 850, where you get like Herodotus,
Yeah.
you know, the Socrates, the Plato's, like the Greeks, you know how many times they came into Africa and studied? You know what I mean? So, but again, so, you know, there's a famous painting of Lisbon, like where you have a man that's riding a horse, and the emblem on the horse lets you know that he's a knight. And this is a dark-skinned brother.
Yeah.
But he's also having a conversation with an European. So, so a lot of these paintings before the 15th century, that was commerce, that was trade taking place. And again, we was not looking at white and black.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, white and black to me are, you know, United States man-made constructs. So again, for all of the, you know, non-African listeners, and again, that was racism is a new thing.
It is.
You know, white supremacy, they say, you know, all of these are new concepts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we all benefit from knowing, you know, our true history.
Yeah.
And knowing, you know, and for me, it's not, I tell people, it's not really not African history, it's world history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
because
it's
that's the birthplace of civilization, and that's where it started. So for you to know that is to know that, you know, everything came from out of that area.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's the reason why everybody keep trying to go back there and try to get more and more resources. Somehow this land keeps developing. If everybody from all regions of the world keep coming to Africa to take resources for however it's been happening since forever,
mm-hmm.
it's still producing.
And that's why sometimes I get confused when brothers are saying and like, you know, this place is the Fertile Crescent and this place is the Fertile Crescent, and it's just like that's not even true to this very day. So I tell people, like, even they had done an X-ray of the Sahara, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you X-ray the land, there are actually tunnels below the Sahara.
Yeah.
And the definition of an oasis is because every once in a while we popped our head out and made small cities. So that's the real breakdown of like oasis, because again, like the 51 parallel, when the ice age, the last one, the warm ice age was melting. See, that was ice up here, but there was a lot of heavy rains in northern Africa. Some parts that could absorb that water became this, you know, the land is so fertile that, you know, people just can toss seeds. People, animals can just crush it into the ground, and then you just got bountiful. Like, there was no need for working the land and fertilizer. It was it's just that fertile, right?
Yeah.
So the other areas where the water went to and saturated the land, and with the heat, it scorched the earth. So that was how the Sahara came into existence.
Mm-hmm.
But we was trading with the world. We wasn't stopping commerce, like we wasn't stopping business.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hot to cross over the Sahara. So these tunnels that once they X-ray the land, most recently, like in the 80s, to show this, there was still trading that we was doing with the world. You know what I mean? So again, I just say that this problem that we face today, you know, is a new problem, and I want people to kind of understand that the history shows that there were better relationships.
Yeah.
You know, throughout history, And again, that's why it's important for everybody. Don't focus on the turmoil that's more of a recent problem than an old existing problem. And let's focus on the history and how things were, and how history then becomes relevant to us. Of course, we cannot, emulate or duplicate a previous generation. I like to say that each generation is responsible for their generation. But it's good also to have, we keep pictures.
Yeah.
We got photo albums. We got scrapbooks.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it is kind of motivational to look back and see how things were done and how happiness and how people were, working together, how communities look.
Yeah.
So those are great, great scrapbooks. But again, you are still responsible for, your generation. You have to take action and build upon it. So.
I love it, man. I love it. And my take on it is, to know self is to have control. And with that control, now you can see where there is improvement that's needed. Since we're always improving the mind, you're not just trying to learn anything. You're not just going on a whim. You're not aimless. You have an aim. You have a focus. You have a goal. You have something that you're targeting, right? And you can see where, okay, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So if you're looking at history, if you don't look at history, that's why history repeats itself. But when you look at history, you can see, okay, this is all starting to line up the same way, and this is what happened. You know the result. We don't have to keep doing the same thing, and we're further than that. We can actually use this to improve that. So many different things that you can do, and when you take on, when you start unraveling history, you start learning and uncovering and being able to be more prevalent in self, then you're able to make those recent developments. You're able to take the present and the future in the palm of your hand. Like, I hold the chisel. I can carve this out the way I want to. Not saying that you can't now, but it makes more sense when you uncover your history.
And I like to sum up what I was saying and tie into what you're saying. It's like with the phrase that until the lesson is learned.
Yes.
It's going to repeat it. The lesson keeps repeating.
Yes.
So, and what happens with that, I don't typically talk about generational, torture that we pass down. But again, if I don't learn the lessons in my lifetime, then that's me putting more on the next generation to come up. It's just that much more harder. So, we hear the phrase quite often that
breaking them generational curses.
We pass a bill and not a will.
Yeah.
And to speak, on a second, like that was not used. That did not used to be the way.
Yeah.
We look at great names and great people. So like, and a lot of times the greatness came because of a legacy that was passed down to them.
Yep.
So we could talk about Imhotep, who gets responsibility for the step pyramid. We call them Mirs, M-E-R, but that is the Greek word for them, pyramids. Pyra mean fire, and mid mean house of fire is what they call them. But he was the chief architect for Pharaoh Doja, Imhotep. But then we look at Imhotep's father. His father was an engineer.
Yep.
So again, we need to be passing down, these legacies. So now this is your time on the scene. Right. What are you passing down? Because again, we are making history in the present.
Yeah.
We're making history all the time.
So
that's why I separate the difference between history and past, because past is is events. It's something that has taken place. Past is facts.
Yeah.
And history is what you make of facts. History is what you make of the past. So that's not only for our, if you have children, looking out at the next generation, making their responsibility. That responsibility still shines onto you. When we talk about leaderships, leadership comes down to, and even with that word control, leadership is what you are doing with your time presently.
Yeah.
And we just can't hand the buck. We can't pass the baton and have somebody else finish this race for us. We got to see things through.
Yeah.
And as a leader, we got the responsibility of, in making history, to make it fun. We can make it communal. We can make history together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
And again, and that's kind of like where I want to take this journey. And like I said, this is how I was describing it earlier. Just saying that I'm doing this because I'm doing this for others.
Yeah.
I'm taking on the responsibility of what I have to do to be accountable for this grand scheme of things. But I already know that I'm supposed to be inspiring others.
Yep.
And then, and again, I don't want people to be like me. Like, I think a community would be like somebody takes on water purification. And that's what they do.
Yep.
Somebody is a gardener, green thumb.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Right? So I'm just one piece.
Yep.
Of this, and I gotta take accountability for myself, hold myself accountable. I gotta be responsible for what I bring to the table. So I'm not even looking for miniature me's.
Yes,
no, I want you to be the best you. I want you to be the best you. I'm gonna be the best me. And yeah, let's go ahead and make this history together. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what I say is, you have to gain knowledge of self. And it's important that you know your roots, your background, your ancestry, your history, in order to get a clearer sense of self. And once you have clarity of self, once you've given so much to yourself, that's when you become selfless. It's like you have to get selfish in a sense, build this up, and then it pours outward. You have to improve yourself, you have to build yourself, you have to develop yourself, you have to know yourself so strongly that now you can give that outward and build others, help others build themselves, and instill it in them the same way that you had to come to whatever recognition of yourself. And then you become selfless. If you look at value, your value is determined by others. Your value isn't determined solely by you. Your value is determined by what you can do, what servitude do you have for someone else. And they say that when people pass, they say that person was of value. Well, what did they do? What did they contribute? What was it that they created that provided the value? What was the attribute? What was the valuable aspect? Your value is determined by others. But you have to build yourself, and then you'll be able to give yourself outwardly in a selfless manner.
Now I like to say that, so the famous African proverb is, man, know thyself. And I love the internet. We're on the internet now.
Right.
But I always want to caution people about the internet, because what is the phrase? We become a jack of many trades and expert of none.
Jack of all trades is
So now there's a lot of information that is out there and is flowing, and we can get scattered. We're taking on something that is not for us, but we're trying to become intellectual in that. We come across something else, and the information, it just flows so heavily in many subjects.
Yeah.
And we become interested, and we begin to explore all things.
Yeah.
I'd like to tell people, make sure I think the rule of life is two things. First, find thyself, find your passion. And then the second phase to that is, now you got to set up a venue to showcase yourself. and you can't do that if you're trying to take on, somebody else's gifts and somebody else's talent. And, I hear you talk about that, and I want to become an expert at what you're talking about. So, but again, I think also because of a lack of community, people may feel like I got to be the whole community myself.
I got to do it all.
I got to do it all. And so history allows me to also know that, like priesthood was like a 30-40 year commitment. So if I'm an engineer in ancient times, that means that I spent 30-40 years perfecting this craft, right? If I'm going to be a minister, I spent 30-40 years in building this craft. And a lot of schools right now in Europe also is set up this way. The infamous question we ask kids when they're little, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yep.
They identify at a young age what their interest is, and all of the curriculum there on out is drive right to making you the best. I want to be a painter. We're going to make sure you become the best painter you can be.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that type of schooling. But again, that goes back to, priesthood Kemetic times and, Nubia times. Whereas you're raised from birth. Like, education was never ending.
Yeah.
You went before you become an elder. And as an elder, what you do between the age 50 to 75, you earn the right now to finally speak to the community. Right? So you had to spend most of your life perfecting your craft, knowing yourself. And now you're in a position where now you can then turn around and add your piece to the community to reach back and help others, become the best themselves, right? So, yeah, and again, that's why I said with elder, I'm looking forward to transitioning over. And when I look to those years, those are the years that I'm now taking the things that I've focused on and knowing myself, perfecting my craft. Now I'm in a position where now I'm giving back. So
yeah, man.
So yeah,
it's highly appreciated. If y'all don't already see it, this man is full of wisdom. Full of wisdom, man. And we can talk all day, but I'm gonna just go ahead and cap it off right there. Listen, check out the Robert Utley Show. It will be in the description. It's on Anchor. Anchor is a podcast platform. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, you can reach out to one of us. We know a little something about it. And do yourself a favor and learn a little bit about this world history that we got out here, okay?
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I release a new episode. So
nice.
5 p.m.
Nice. And we'll be with y'all as we go on. Much love. Peace.
Peace.